of it. So we're starting that recording now. And welcome everybody to the Chamber of Commerce Member Monday. My name is Don Giannangeli. I am the Edward Jones Financial Advisor in Hollymead, and I'm also the Vice President for Membership of the Charlottesville Business Exchange. CBE is a 501c6 nonprofit corporation here in Charlottesville that was founded back in 2007. And as far as we know, though I'm not sure we've done real deep research on this, we are the oldest continuously operating networking group in Central Virginia. What we're going to be talking to you today about is networking in a COVID world. And what I want to lay out there is that I'm going to be talking about the approach that we as a group have taken to networking over all these years, from 2007 until today, and the way that we've seen those approaches stand up to COVID and continue to function well, even as we can't get together in person anymore, and we need to start meeting virtually. There's plenty of CBE members on the call today, but for those of you who are not members, I want to make sure you see the website there at the bottom, and I'll have it on the last slide as well. It's cbecharlottesville.com, where you can always go for more information. So I just want to set the stage and talk a little bit about who we are as a group. So we presently have 17 member companies in the Charlottesville Business Exchange. All their logos are here. I'll just tell you a little bit about all of us. We've got Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group, represented by Todd Jenkins, who's here with us today. Avenue Realty, represented by Realtor Paul McCarter. He's also the owner of Kid to Kid, which is the top right logo there. It's a kids clothing and sporting goods exchange store on North 29. We've got CBS 19 News, their advertising department, represented by Josephine Humphreys. She's got great specialty in TV advertising and also digital advertising. Decks by DAC Construction, Trex Decks and Outdoor Living Spaces by Dennis Kidd. And of course, Edward Jones, that's me. Melissa Reed Design. She is a fantastic independent graphic designer that's part of our group. She does murals and business cards, logos, all those sorts of things that the businesses need to market themselves. MSS Design, represented by Nina Crawford. She does great interior design for homes and businesses. Oliva Gourmet Olive Oils and Balsamics at Barracks Road. Owner Robert Johnson is our treasurer, and he's been with the group for quite a while now. Paul Davis Restoration out of Ruckersville, Virginia. Their marketing director, Stephanie Dean, is part of our group. Rodan and Fields Skincare, represented by Jen McCarter. And Sentient, which is a life and business coaching outfit, represented by Dr. Dan Elash, who's been doing consulting with Fortune 250 companies for years. The Tax Ladies, represented by Livia Edwards-Albaugh. Trudell Law, it's a solo practitioner, Nancy Trudell, attorney at law. United Bank is with us, represented by Maggie Morris. The Rudd Insurance Group, Bill Rudd is our president. And then WJMA and Piedmont Communications, represented by Erica Gentile-Hussard. They do our radio advertising, and they're all part of the group. So what you can see from this organization is there's no overlap among these members. That's one of the first things to get across to everybody today. It's one of the things that we think makes networking strong is to focus on businesses that are not like yours for two reasons. Number one, to learn from the things that make you different. And number two, so that when you're talking about each other and referrals, you don't have any of that sort of competition going on. So how we do networking. The whole reason that any of us network is to do what? We're trying to grow our business. It's one of my primary client sourcing strategies at Edward Jones. And the whole objective of doing this is to try and grow our businesses as much as possible and get at the largest number of people. We've all seen diagrams like the one on this slide where I don't care if it's multi-level marketing or just figuring out how you're connected to everybody else. There's levels to it. The objective is to try and get at this largest group of people at the bottom there and make them all your clients. But what we found is that's not where we spend the most effective time. If you think about getting in front of large numbers of people, that tends to mean that you're spending less time with each one of them. And so think about the Chamber's monthly events that are canceled right now, the Chamber After Hours, where we get 150 enthusiastic business people together, and we are all spending an hour and a half passing out those business cards and shaking hands and doing our level best. And those relationships tend to be not very deep. What we do at CBE is we focus on instead a smaller number of people, and we invest our time and our energy in those people and in those connections so that they can become raving fans and help us to grow our business in a much more active way. And that's what we found has survived COVID, because we are spending time with fewer people, but deepening those relationships. And so what does it take to be successful at this kind of networking? And the first thing that I'll say is it takes commitment. I have been a part of a number of different groups, a number of different recurring meetings over my experience. And what I found is the people who will block time on their calendar to make it the top priority to do a meeting or to do a networking event consistently are the ones that get the most out of it consistently. So one way that I refer to this is taking the time to work on your business rather than just working in your business. So that kind of commitment is critical. Trust is what we can really gain by spending more time focused on a smaller number of people who would be your key centers of influence in the community. And if we spend time with them, getting to know who they are, what drives them, what's the why that caused them to get into the business that they're doing and what value they bring, and then allowing them to explore those things at their own pace about yourself. That whole activity builds trust. And so if there's ever going to be a referral made, it's not because, hey, I've been to a meeting with this guy once or twice. It's because I know his family. I know where he came from. I know how he treats people and what's important to him. And so that's why I think you should meet this person. The final thing that it takes is a true giving spirit, because there's a couple different ways you can approach a networking meeting. If it's, I've got to get in here and meet 15 people and make sure they all get my business card and they hear my elevator speech, right? That is sort of pushing yourself on others. And it's not, none of what I just said is about learning about other people. Giving of yourself to commit to them and invest your time in them is what gets the best results coming back out. So how do we do it at the Charlottesville Business Exchange? Well, we'll go through that. First of all, we have structure to the way that we operate, but not too much. I'll tell you what structure there is. We commit to meet with each other once a week. It is a large time commitment because in non-COVID times, it's spending the time to drive to Burton's Grill and meeting for an hour and a half because there's meal service involved in that. But we spend that time together each and every week. There's structure to the meeting. People know what to expect. We start by working on our infomercials. Each of us gets to speak for a minute or two. We help each other to improve those. We will have an educational moment offered by our business coach, Dr. Dan Elash, and then we'll have time dedicated to a guest speaker that can help us all do better in business, or we will spend time brainstorming with one another about one member's business and how to improve it, which leads to the board of directors mentality. What we try to do is treat each other in and of ourselves as trusted advisors. So when I think of this group, I think these are the folks that I can come to and say, gosh, my pipeline is empty. I don't have any new clients coming my way. This is what I'm trying and it's not working. What ideas do you guys have? And that's another level of building trust. And it gives us a reason to spend more time networking with a smaller number of people to get that kind of result. And then finally, the quality in, quality out. In any organization, you've got some members that are really devoted and great at it. You've got some who are not. And we've seen over the years that the more that you put in, the more of yourself that you give, the more quality commitment you have to the group and to doing the act of networking, the more quality results you get back out. In our group, one of our objectives is to refer to one another, but none of those referrals is taken for granted. You've got to give in order to receive, and those who don't give tend not to get referrals in our group. So that's the approach that we've taken. The way this applies in the COVID world is because we're spending more time with fewer people, Zoom meetings tend to go better for us. I've been on some with some other groups, namely just trying to get things organized with the Alzheimer's Association, or doing like with Andrea, graduation for our Leadership Charlottesville class this year with lots and lots of people on a Zoom. And when you've got that going on, there's less exchange between one another. If too many people are speaking at once, it gets garbled and you can't understand. But if there's only 10 people on the call, everybody can be unmuted and we can speak up and offer something just like we would in person. So that tends to help a lot. And with that, I really want to introduce our president, Bill Rudd. And Bill, you should be able to unmute yourself, but he is the owner and principal of Rudd Insurance Group, and he's our longest standing member. And I wanted everyone to hear from him what he's gotten out of approaching networking this way over the last 13 years.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for allowing me just to be a part of this. Don, thank you for the great job you did. I actually shared that distinction of being a part of this group along with Todd Jenkins, who's we both joined in October of 2008. There's not a matter of which is better for me. Is it better to be a member of the chamber or a member of a networking group? Actually, most of us belong to the chamber. But the distinction there, Don, I think you made it, is the relationships sometimes go from casual to one of intentional. And what we try to build out, what it's meant to me is it's helped me develop trusted business relationships with people that I can be professionally intimate with, in that I know their business. They come to me sometimes with, how do you handle this situation? What are you using in advertising that's working? I've got, I want to develop an employee manual. I remember once I had someone that belonged to the gym that I belonged to, and he wanted an attorney referral. And so I gave him the name of someone that I thought would be a good fit. He immediately responded by saying, how do you know this person? And I mentioned, well, I know them through a community association. And right away he dismissed it because he wanted someone that I had worked with, someone that I had personal professional knowledge of. And I think that's what it's taught me, is the relationships that we develop truly are that of a board of directors mindset, where we go to each other, and not only are we looking to intentionally refer people to one another to help our businesses grow, but we can talk about what's working in our business, what isn't working, and that's been extremely beneficial to me. So I'm happy to, along with Don and other members of our group, to entertain questions, but it's been a good association for me for the last 13 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. And so that is the end of our presentation. These Member Mondays are meant to be short and sweet, but we also wanted to make sure we left time for questions and open discussion. So any of y'all who are on the call, Ann, Jack, Gail, you have anything you'd like to say or ask, now's the time. And Andrea, sorry.
Okay, I unmuted myself. As you said, Don, I have been to a couple of meetings. I'm very impressed with the people that have attended. I'm impressed with the organization of the meetings, everybody that spoke at the meetings. It is an impressive group. It really is. And so as you know, I'm still in the discernment process. At least I started it when all this hit.
Yeah.
So that being said, Don, you sent me the paperwork of the policies and procedures, I guess is the only way I can say it.
Uh-huh.
How closely does everybody keep that policy and procedure, if you will? How close do they keep it to the chest is the best way I can put it. As far as, okay, so let's say we have a member, or you have a member that isn't quite keeping up because of, let's say, personal reasons or business reasons, and they're slowing down for those types of reasons. They can't quite keep up with the parameters that you've set with the group. How would you deal with that?
That's a great question, Ann. And one of the things Ann's talking about is that time commitment that we have to one another, and that we do encourage people to attend as many meetings as possible, because if you don't, you're not going to get as much out of it. And so we have a point system where we earn points by attending meetings, by inviting guests, by sending a substitute if we can't be there ourselves. And some folks sometimes don't earn all that many points because life gets in the way. And so the way that we address that with our members is we set an expectation within the membership agreement that you should be earning enough points to be in the President's Club, which we define, maybe about 1 quarter every year. And when we do have a member that's consistently struggling with that, we'll talk with them about it as a leadership team. But then also, what we've done is we've said, this is an exclusive group, and so if you're consistently not able to participate well, then your seat may not be completely safe anymore. If we find another person in your same field that really wants to be a member, we may entertain that application, whereas if you were here every week, we wouldn't even consider it. So that's kind of how that's addressed.
And now with the limit of meetings and getting out there and meeting people, if you will, so that I would imagine is also affecting your ability to bring business to each other during this time, or have you noticed it really hasn't? I mean, how has that dynamic changed?
My experience has been that in this environment, bringing business to one another has not slowed down. In fact, it's become more important to our member businesses than it ever was before. Like me, for example, one of my methods of sourcing new clients is to go out and knock on doors. I always had a plan. When we had the next big market crash like we had in February, I'd go knock every door in Forest Lakes and just let them know, hey, I'm here and I can help with this, right? Well, in this situation, I couldn't do that. So all I can do is focus my energy on the people that I'm closest with in the Charlottesville business community and find ways we can help one another. So it's become more important, a bigger part of my week every week. And I'm reaching out outside of CBE as well to do that. My pace of referrals to people in my network, both in CBE and without, has increased in this environment because I've got clients asking questions they normally don't ask. And I've seen that in other members as well. And the other thing that we're finding is the getting together still by Zoom is grounding us and giving us something to hold on to every week.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, great questions, Ann. Thank you.
I'm going to let somebody else ask because I'm the kind of person who just keeps going.
Okay.
Don, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So as the chamber, you had mentioned it earlier, right before, I don't know what happened to me in the middle of this, but right before I lost connection, I heard you say something about, or maybe when I came back on, you were talking about how we don't get together as much as we have been as a chamber. Our Let's Connects, all those events have been suspended for right now, but it's also given us an opportunity to think about how we do business and how we've been able to still continue business in some capacity with the chamber. And so we are thinking about what does the chamber look like post-COVID. What does CBE look like post-COVID? What do you think?
That's a fantastic question. And it's something that we are still struggling with as a group. I'll be honest with you. We've had debates about whether to resume our in-person meetings with all kinds of precautions because Burton's Grill is open again. We're going to try a little face-to-face get-together with a fraction of our members outside this coming Thursday afternoon, just to see how that goes. But we are pushing to try to get back together again somehow, some way. And we are still looking towards resuming things as they were. In the meantime, we found that the Zoom meetings are very effective. We're getting similar attendance numbers, but we've also noticed that Zoom is is consistently a bad option for a few of our members, and we're trying to address that by taking their feedback and seeing what else we can do. But that's, I don't know that that's a really great answer, but that's how it's going.
Yeah.
Yep. So for those members that it's consistently a bad option, can you elaborate a little bit as to what are the reasons? I don't know how much you can say about it, but what are the reasons it's consistently a bad option for those members?
Well, there have been a couple of examples. One is one of our member companies shifted from working a bunch of people jointly in the office to most everybody at home, and they're rotating to have one person be in the company office, just one person per day. And the one who's a member of CBE got stuck with Thursdays when the rest of us are still meeting. So she can't do the Zoom connection on the work computer for some reason. There's another person who's, without that commitment to show up at a restaurant every week, they wind up out at job sites in the boonies, and from there can't get a good connection to Zoom, things like that. Okay. But then there have been others that have said, one of the biggest struggles for me is peeling myself away from my office to go to a restaurant. And now that that's not an issue, they're showing up every single week because she says it's great. I can still sit here without leaving and connect with everybody. And so it's been an improvement for her.
Okay. All right. So Andrea, with the chamber kind of reassessing what Zoom looks like, it sounds to me that there are a lot of positive aspects to incorporate more Zoom into meetings, as the CBC has found out, as well as there are some negative, of course. But I'm excited to hear that the chamber is looking at that because, like Don was saying, some people show up more with Zoom. It's very advantageous to me. I like it, even though I really do miss person to person. I'm a very social person. I like to get out there. I like to meet more people. So I'd say, as long as there's a nice balance between the two, where there's the opportunity to meet in person as well, and as an opportunity to meet Zoom. So maybe at the end of this, for both groups, CBE as well as the chamber, we're going to end up in the end with something really, really good, incorporating it all, having it all in the picture.
Right. And to your point, Ann, I was actually speaking more just administratively how we're doing our work, with the exception of our networking events, which is who we are as a chamber, we've still been able to do a lot of our administrative duties remotely. And so we're looking at, okay, what does that mean post-COVID? Do we need a new office space, as we were considering? Do we continue to work remotely? But you bring up another good point. We have been hearing a lot. I appreciate from members who are saying they appreciate the fact that we still provide these networking opportunities via Zoom. But we're also mindful that Zoom fatigue is real. But at the same time, we know you can network in person and be exhausted from that. So It is about the balance, providing the opportunities for those who prefer this format, as well as incorporating our in-person gatherings as well.
You know, Andrea, one idea that you guys might kick around is, I know it's a wonderful thing that you guys have been able to offer the Chamber's conference room to members to use for getting together. Zoom isn't just a computer and laptop thing. Zoom has hardware that you can use to make a space a Zoom room, so that people who are there in person aren't, sitting and focused on their technology like everybody has a laptop, but there's equipment in the room so that everyone there can be heard by those on Zoom. And people on Zoom can be large on a screen and participate with those in person. That's something that we've struggled with as we talk about how to get back together, because there's a lot of our members that just want to go back to lunch at Burton's really soon, and some that are uncomfortable with it. And we've struggled with, well, how do we deal with both? The only way we can is Burton's. There is no Zoom room anywhere in Charlottesville for us to use. But if Burton's had the equipment, it would work.
Right.
Without that, all we can do is say, well, everyone that goes to Burton's, you have to bring a laptop and a complete headset, so that we don't have feedback over multiple microphones and stuff like that, and it feels inclusive to those who can't come in person.
I think that's a great idea.
I really hope more places around town will install equipment like that.
Yeah, maybe the chamber can kind of like promote that, a whole idea. I think it's wonderful. And I hope that these Mondays, member Mondays, are encouraged and advertised and out there for everybody to participate in. Because even though I've been to a couple of the CBE meetings, I've gotten a lot of really great information today and some nuggets. You can get a lot in 15 minutes and then a lot through the questions. So I hope that a lot of people do watch this recording. I hope that it gets spread around, and I hope it encourages people to do it. I know I've got it in my plan book to do one. Beamer has gone through some changes in the past couple of months as far as Class 2 clearance. So I've got to kind of reword things, but once that's done, I'd certainly plan on doing it.
One thing I would just like to add, kind of with something that was said earlier, the difference between how networking to me has looked in the whole COVID shutdown thing is a lot of people's idea of networking is, I show up somewhere. It could be a chamber event. It could be it could be anywhere. And if I introduce myself and I hand a business card to somebody, and we chatted for 5 minutes in the snack line, check the box, I've done my networking. And I think one thing that this shutdown has really showed is the people who, me personally, I've truly networked with, because they're the people who I have stayed in contact with, and they're the people that I have talked with about other ways to get business and stuff like that. And all those other hundreds of people that I quote unquote network with, there's been no contact. So I think a lot of people, it's one of the complaints I hear about with the chamber from people is they're like, oh, well, I was in the chamber and I got, I was there for a whole year and I never got anything. And it's like, well, wow. Well, what all did you do while you were in the chamber? Did you meet with people? Did you oh, well, I went to all the after hours. Yeah. With who? Oh, well, me and my friend from work. Well, yeah, then you talk to the same person. So I think what this has really shown to me is what the true results of real networking does, to where you build a true, real relationship with somebody to where you care about each other's business. And obviously, those strongest connections have been in CBE because that's who I have my strongest networking. But even outside of CBE, I'm seeing that. So maybe even if the chamber did, as an additional, some more small focused chamber events somehow or another, to where it forces people to have a conversation besides passing out 25 business cards in an hour and a half. Just
And,
kind of
and Paul, we do have those. We call them affinity groups
okay.
that typically meet on a monthly basis, whether they're public policy focused, focus on minority businesses, focus on professional women in business. What are some of the others? Aging in place, just to name a few. So right now, I think we have 8 or 9 of those affinity groups where it affords attendees more of an opportunity to be a little more intimately connected. Each group has its own personality, of course, and how they run.
Is this the same thing as the roundtables?
Roundtables,
Okay,
council.
okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I haven't heard of this. Okay,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it makes sense.
So we call all of those affinity groups. But yeah, the roundtables and councils and alliances and things like that. So, but yeah, depending on how each are run, I know several of them just afford more of an intimate opportunity for people to get a little more closely connected, because our after hours, they're huge. Folks are eating and drinking and what have you. But with our affinity groups, you tend to see more of the same people in a smaller setting. So it can help deepening with that relationship.
Well, before we disconnect, Jack, is there anything you wanted to say? You've been sitting there quietly.
Yeah. No, this is a good intro to me to CBE. I got a couple questions, but I think it's just a quick look at your website.
Okay.
But I appreciate you guys' time telling me all about it.
Absolutely, Jack.
I'm
Where do you work?
What's that?
Where do you work?
Clearwater Systems. So we sell like water treatment equipment around the area.
Oh,
a little
fantastic.
newer at the game, so I've been at it for like a year and a half, and just trying to get that phone to ring more. Do everything I can to make that happen.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us today. Andrea, I did record this on my computer because I saw you had disconnected.
Yeah, thank you, Don. So if you don't mind sending that to us in a link. But before you disconnect, thank you for speaking for our Member Monday, and thank you all for attending and supporting Don with this Member Monday. And we will get this up on our, it'll be sent out in our newsletter. If not this week, definitely next week. But thanks, Don, for recording, and my apologies. Yeah.
All right, take care, everybody, and thanks for coming.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye-bye.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.